I would say you have a more extensive knowledge about craft beer than a lot of people that I know. And that's great. And I know a lot of people who drink a lot of craft beer, though, surprisingly. I mean, a lot of it's close friends. It's a small group. But you definitely you move around so much that you've had a chance to experience a lot of things that not everyone else I know. It's all these breweries. And you have a real good knowledge of, like, what's in your state already, too. Because, you know, some folks, like, you may travel, but, like, you still don't explore your home. Like, I'm lacking right now in actually visiting breweries. Like, I do a pretty good job of picking up cans and stuff like that and getting things and trying to buy local. But I haven't really done the diligence to really go to some of these tasting rooms and breweries. And that's kind of one of the big initiatives this year for me.
You really, you know, treat yourself. Don't cheat yourself, man. That's what I always say, man. Because I mean, the thing is, man, I mean, and I'm sure you know this, but sometimes you get a whole different, you know, experience or taste, man, when you get it fresh right there from that tap versus the can. You know, and it's weird. Sometimes fresh isn't always the best to me. Sometimes the can is actually better, man. It's weird. And that might depend on the beer. That might depend on, anyway, that probably a lot of different factors. But, you know, so, I mean, but definitely, man, I feel like with craft beer, sometimes the fresher, the better. But, you know, that you can't discount the fact that some of these beers age very nicely. So, you know, sometimes cans and, you know, aged cans are better. But, yeah, man, DC, I feel like DC, I mean, you know, we talked about Richmond already. I mean, you're about, hour and a half from there.
Yeah.
You know, definitely, we got to link up there. But you know what I would recommend if you don't have a lot of time, I would hit a bottle shop. Find you somewhere. Maybe not even a Total Wine. I don't know if they have Total Wines out there, but that's always a good resource. But like a local bottle shop, man, can put you in touch with a lot of, you know what I'm saying? Because that's who's kind of, in my opinion, man, that's who's kind of like circulating those local brews, man, and those regional kind of spots, man, like those breweries. Right. Yeah. It's a distribution channel. So they're looking for those tight bottle shops, man.
That's where I feel like you definitely get a better cross section of like what's in the local area when you go to the shop, because of course even breweries are going to carry so many, you know, or not breweries, but I mean tap houses or even like bars are only going to carry so many lines, because a lot of times they'll have, you know, the one or two beers that they know are for the real drinkers, the real beer drinkers, and then they got to have some other stuff because they probably sell more, you know, Heineken and Budweiser to the mainstream who come there. But yeah, definitely the bottle shops where it's at.
You know, and another cool thing is not only bottles, man, but they get pretty tight on kegs. You know what I mean? They'll go buy a keg, a couple kegs, like, you know, for instance, with the Jug and Bottle. You know what I mean? That visit, I talked to my guy over there, Thomas. Yeah, and they had a keg of you know, from the Veil Brewing in Richmond. They had a keg of, you know, Master Shredder and a Crucial Taunt. I think those are some of their staples. They've been around for a while, but I've never had one of them. But if you got a dope bottle shop, man, I think they're gonna stay on top of things, man, and kind of find those kegs, man, in other spots too. I mean, and man, that's kind of a good look, man. That bottle shop is down here in Tampa. The Veil was in Richmond, so you never know what you might find. And the cool thing about them is that, like, it's kind of like a treasure chest. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that. You know, TJ Maxx or Marshalls, man, you go in there and you see it, you might be like, oh, snap, man, this is dope. And if you don't buy it right then, you come back and that joke's gone. You know what I'm saying?
It's funny to use that reference. I'm thinking like the Nike shirt with the slightly shorter sleeve. Right?
That's it. You might hit her irregular.
$5 for this Nike shirt, bro. What?
Yeah. Try them on, man. Try them on always. But yeah, man, they got taps at the bottle shops too, man. So yeah, that's what I would recommend. If it's a quick trip, not a lot of time, you may be able to find that bottle shop, man, do a little research, and then, you know, hit that bottle shop up, you know, catch a couple on Tapped, and then, you know, take a few cans or bottles home, man.
Be sure to visit FlyDialogue.com to find out more about us, including our radio station where we stream hip hop 24/7. Yo, we're literally jamming as we speak. We got a craft beer blog called C.R.E.A.M. Craft Rules Everything Around Me. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, the craft beer app called Untapped, or on YouTube. Just search FlyDialogue on all these platforms. Be sure to follow us and friend us, subscribe to us. Long story short, check us out. We'd love to have y'all, and we look forward to connecting with you. And let's talk soon.
One thing I was telling you about Lickinghole Creek, like when I discovered them is because I was actually at Founding Farmers, which is a farm to table food place here in DC. Like and so when you go to Founding Farmers, like the menu changes often because it's based on what's being made or what's being grown at the time of year, right? Like the menu there, but also they only source like beers from breweries that are in Virginia. And so Lickinghole Creek had a beer that they were doing with like fresh grown strawberries, supposedly from only that area, and they only brew it at that particular one certain time of year. So it's like, oh yeah, so I had to try that out. But I like that about them. You know, I like that about any company that, like, once again, it's so unique that it's like, I might not ever have this again. I got to try it, right? Or I know I had this and I might not find it elsewhere, or someone else hasn't had it, you know? So even distribution-wise, it was hard to find in stores out here. So,
oh, wow.
But, you know, we found it further southern Maryland, they had them down there. But yeah, it's pretty interesting that they had something just different. I have yet to still visit that particular brewery, but you know, I've had some pretty good beers from
Lickinghole. Yeah, man, I was supposed to hit them up when I think I was in Richmond.
I did not know it was a majority woman-owned business. That's really interesting, and I like that too. I mean,
yeah, no, definitely, man. I mean, there's not enough of them out there, honestly.
I think we talked about that too. Is like there's a few, you know, woman-owned breweries. There's one in DC. I cannot remember the name of it off the top of my head, but they were just featured in the news. I ran across one out in Florida. When I was down in you know, Tampa area. So like but you find that they're few and far between when it comes to majority woman owned or even just generally like, you know, minority owned, right? Like, you know, we talked about that. There's not a whole lot of black owned breweries, or even to my knowledge, you know, Asian Americans that are brewing big time in that space. It's probably growing. And I mean, I'm not speaking from a knowledge of facts or anything. I know based on my experience, it's not like I run across too many, you know, breweries that are black owned. I think I told you about, was it 1865? That's a new one. That's a brewery that opened down in Tidewater area. I have yet to visit it. I was informed about it, right? And that's interesting. So, but yeah, it's definitely like it's a special thing when you're like, oh, this is a woman owned brewery. Now that makes me want to try it even more, or go there more often and figure out, okay, well, what are they doing? And
what are they doing? No, man, you're absolutely right, man. I mean, it's I mean the description that they have is crazy. Yeah, majority woman owned and operated, water conscious, biologically friendly farm brewery, and agritourism event venue. Agritourism.
Wow.
Carefully crafting beers and growing hops, barley, and other adjuncts. We operate on a beautiful working farm in the heart of Virginia. It sounds exquisite, man. I would love to check it out. Let me pull up the gallery just so we can kind of see what's from a visual standpoint. Oh man, that's a proper backsplash, man. I'm loving the subway tile, man.
Yeah.
These bottles up top, man. I love a floating shelf. Man, that marble, man. Okay, it's very aesthetically pleasing.
What's interesting is it's funny because the name I think always gets people when they tell, hey, I really like this beer from Lickinghole Creek, and they're like, what? There's a brewery name, and so they have a thing here that explains what it is. Apparently, that was the word they used to, I guess, call the river.
Yeah, the Lickinghole. Yeah,
that's interesting. I didn't know. So yeah, that's where it comes from. I mean, it has a funny kind of innuendo vibe about it. You know, I think that always intrigues people more than anything else is just the name. So.
Yeah, that looks like a dope area. Oh, they get some live music out here.
Yeah, so they do a lot of events with artists and stuff like that, crossover events with artists and things like that. So, you know, I mean, I'm a fan. Like, to your point, if it's got limited hours and it's a place that you can't really go very often, and they do all these like cool events and they kind of try to tie it together, it has more of a cultural feel. Like, I'm trying to check that out. You know.
Nah, man. I mean, I'm looking at this, a cognac oak spiral aged chocolate stout, 11.5%. Man, that sounds deliciously. Yeah, man. I mean, dude, this looks kind of like a winery setup, honestly, man.
Well, you know, and they got all that space around them. So it's like, it's funny. I think I was mentioning before when I went to a couple of breweries when you're down in Roanoke, and like, just like the land is so vast. And I mean, Goochland is just southwest, right, of Richmond. But when you start getting outside of that city area, there's a lot of space, you know, and this is a farm, you know, so that's also amazing. I mean, there's a couple of wineries up here, like north, like Langenor, which I like to go to, but it's because when you go to the venue, it's this massive farm, and it's like, you know, acres and acres of space. And I think that's really cool, man. It gives it a whole different vibe, you know?
No, absolutely, man. This definitely, man, we definitely got to pull up on there.
Because I'm realizing that they grow these ingredients themselves. So the strawberries that I was talking about that were in that, you know, that milkshake IPA were grown probably at that farm on their land. And I think that's crazy.
Sure.
if they're growing a lot of this stuff actually at the particular brewery, and then they're taking them straight inside, and that's to me is awesome. It doesn't get much better than that.
Just looking at the pics, man, they need some color. They need some color brought to the brought to Lickinghole Creek, man. So no disrespect, but yeah, looking at this pic, I'm like, yo, where are the brothers? Where are the sisters, man? But yeah, man, we'll get out there and see what they got to work with, and yeah, man, looking forward to that experience, man. Lickinghole Creek.
Yeah, like to check this out.
I feel